All right, so as we go ahead and solve this problem, we're going to think about constant rate of change. As we think about that, though, we're going to make sure that we remember to use our RUBIES strategy, and that's going to help us to think through this problem a little bit better. We're going to read twice. On the second time, making sure that we underline important words, we box our numbers. We can also make an illustration. Here, they have some tables for us, so instead, we're actually just going to use the tables instead of an illustration. But if you wanted to make one, you could always draw a graph that corresponds to this information. Then we can look at E, which is our eliminate, find which choices don't make sense, and then finally S, solve. All right, so let's go ahead and read once. Remember, the first time we're just reading for information. Caleb read 6 books in 4 weeks at a constant rate. Which table represents Caleb's progress toward his goal? Reading a second time, making sure that we underline important words and box numbers. Caleb read 6 books in 4 weeks. He read it at a constant rate. They want to know which table represents Caleb's progress. When we look at the table, we can see that it gives us some options. So the very first thing that we want to figure out is in which situation are we going to find that Caleb has read 6 books in 4 weeks. Well, we know that 6 books is going to be his output, so that means 6 is going to be his Y. So we can see that on our table. We're also going to identify it over on our problem. So that means weeks is X, and we're going to identify it on our problem, weeks as X. Weeks as X. There we go. So now what we want to know is where are we going to have an X of 4 and a Y of 6? Well, we look here, and that's correct. We look at B, yep, that works. Look at C, yep, that works. And finally, let's take a look at D. Nope. 4 weeks, he's read 12 books. While that is really fast, unfortunately, that is not where Caleb is. So let's go ahead and look at these other options. So now that we know this information, we also know that our constant rate of change can be found by K is equal to Y divided by X. This is because as distance goes on, you can multiply that by the rate and the time. So basically, even though these use different variables, they're saying the same thing. That if I multiply my rate times something, it's going to tell me how much I'll have at the end. Or, in other words, if I think about what I have at the end and I divide that by the time, then I'm going to find out what that constant or what that rate was. So they work together. So I might have to use either one of these. Let's find out. All right, so when we look here, we see that our numbers are increasing, and we can also see that we are having a Y of 6 from our problem. We have an X of 4, and we're going to go ahead and divide. 6 goes on the inside, 4 on the outside, and that decimal point is going to come straight up. 4 goes in to 6 one time. 1 times 4 is 4. Minus 4 is 2. Bring down that 0. 4 goes into 20 5 times. 5 times 4 is 20. We subtract. We're left with 0. So now we know that our constant, or our rate in this case, is 1 5/10, or 1.5 books over the time times our weeks. So we look over here and we can create our own table now. X, Y. Well, we already know that 1 week, 1.5 books. 2 weeks, multiply times 1.5, that gives us 3 books. We're gonna then get 3 weeks. 3 times 1.5 gets us 4 5/10 books. And multiply by 4 weeks. 4 times 1.5, as we already know, is gonna get us 6, because that's what we did when we found out in our division problem. So now we're gonna go ahead and match up, make sure that we have all of this information the same. I look at A, the first one is correct, second one matches, so does the third one, looks good here. Look at B, nope, first one doesn't match. And then we look at C, yep, first one matches, the second one matches, but the third one does not.